by you that this government will continue to work for the development of our state in line with the promises we made for you during our electioneering campaign.
That's the governor of Kano State, who the tribunal ruled against. And still on Kano State, we have joining me in the studio the NMPP National Vice Chairman, South-South, Dr. Stanley E.J. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you very much
For joining us.
And
thank you very
much.
And with him in the studio is the SA to the APC National Chairman on Civil Society, Comrade Okpoku Ogenhi. Thank you, Comrade, for joining. Welcome. Comrade, let me start with you. You see, your party won, yes. And I saw the video of the candidate dancing. We're going to show that video soon, but let's get to hear from you. How does he feel winning a sitting governor at the tribunal, even though they said they were going to appeal this judgment?
Yeah, to me, the sitting government would have congratulated the winner of the tribunal judgment, because when INEC initially declared Governor Abba Yusuf winner, His Excellency Nasiru Gawama congratulated him before the party went to court. But here the reverse is the case. It shows who actually have the interest of the people at heart. So yesterday was a historic day in the history of Kano State, where people jubilated across the state. Even Kano citizens in diaspora were jubilating because it was a day that all prayed for. You will agree with me that when the election took place on the 18th of March, the NMPP was in a hurry to rig the election. So they instilled violence in major areas, chased away INEC officials, presiding officers, took possession of electoral materials, not knowing that Section 63 and 64 of the Electoral Act has stated very clear what validates result of election. So they went ahead, printed ballot papers, stuff it, forced some INEC staff to declare result. Of course, it was declared in their favor. But when the party, my own party, saw the injustice and the violence still, they decided to stay back, went to court to seek redress. And in the court, you remember that when the court granted the APC leave to inspect the electoral materials, the NMPP appealed the judgment, the decision, and the appeal court ruled in favor of the party. That's my party. And the materials were inspected, and it was discovered that over 165,000 votes were illegal. Vote without stamp, without signature of presiding officers, just stuff it into the ballot boxes. And according to Section 63, subsection 1 and 2, they are invalid vote.
Okay.
So when they were separated from the main vote, of course, their vote came to 850-something, and our own was 890, a clear win. The governor ought to have congratulated the winner instead of seeking redress.
All right, let me start by that Section 63 that you quoted. You see, in the Nigerian constitution, the power to count votes rests on INEC. It is INEC that decides the counting of votes through their electoral officer at the polling unit. And let me read that Section 63. It says, subject to subsection 2, a ballot paper which does not bear official mark prescribed by the commission shall not be counted.
Yes.
That's where I'm going to.
Yes.
Because the counting of the ballots was not by the NMPP. It was by INEC. With what the tribunal did yesterday, does that not show that INEC should be held responsible for that?
No, this happened in Benue State recently when former Governor Gabriel Towa Suswan in the tribunal ruled that there were some votes that ought to have been legally collated that belongs to him and were not collated by INEC. And it ruled that those results were valid and they were added. Suswan was declared winner. The PDP and other opposition parties celebrated it. But in the case of Kano, You can see the intrigues they are trying to bring up and down. And let me tell you, there is God in everything we do. This is a governor that came into power 6 days into office, started demolishing people's properties, people's houses, shops, and others. So people have been praying for this day to come. I think what saved the governor and the NNPP from serious embarrassment is that INEC, the court did not declare a rerun. If they have declared a rerun, they wouldn't have scored up to 1/3 of the entire vote they have gotten before.
All right, I'll come back to you, comrade.
Yes.
Let's quickly come to Doctor. Doctor, thank you so much. I had to let him speak so that you can listen to him appropriately. You see, he quoted sections 63, 1 and 2. And in that section, I'm still very particular about what that section is talking about. It said, subject to subsection 2, a ballot paper which does not bear official mark prescribed by the commission shall not be counted. That means it shouldn't be counted on the day of voting, the day of counting. So how come the tribunal now picked this? And the ballot paper, where it's coming from, I know you will say because it is your party, but let's also look at the reality before us.
No, you see, ironically, until politicians become statesmen, Nigerians will not have peace. They will not have a government of their desire. Yesterday, the decisions of the electorates, the very good people of Kano State, the mandate that was freely and massively given to Abba Yusuf and NNPP was murdered in the altar of judicial pronouncement.
How do you mean? Because
Thank you very much. I will refer him to the same INEC Act 63-2 that states very clearly that the presiding officer in every polling unit have rights to decide what is right and what is wrong. And that they did in that same polling unit. The question I want to ask my friend is, were there not agents of APC, PDP, Labour, and other parties in that same unit, in those polling units? That is one leg. The second leg is this. By the time those elections were counted, those ballot boxes were counted, was APC agents not available? Was INEC staff not the ones that declared that those results? They were. Another leg there is this. The INEC Act equally states that in a situation where the number of votes cancelled exceeds the number of legally
accredited. Yes.
The election, there should be a rerun on those areas where those infractions happen. So why did the judge openly disregard that aspect of the Electoral Act? Why did he do so? He should have asked for a rerun. And another question I wanted him to answer is it possible that in an election where there are 2 contestants or more, that only the ballot papers of NNPP were the ones that was over, or that were below, or that were cancelled, or that were not right? Is it possible in an election? The answer is absolutely no. The second leg of the question is this. By the time of collation, were there no APC members there? You know that they were there. So the issue that he has brought here has nothing to do with APC celebrating. What happened yesterday was that justice was murdered in the altar of judiciary.
Okay. Let me go by what the judge said. What the judge said is that the ballot papers that they saw, because you asked the question now, how come it was only the NNPP ballots, votes that were brought before the court? The ballot paper that you call the NNPP votes, they were not stamped by INEC. That's what the judge said. So they didn't get to see the INEC stamp on it. How did that happen?
That is why I said it is not NNPP to be held responsible. In elections situation, we've seen situations where there were either no stamps or there were no biro. But the law stipulates that the INEC presiding officer.
Yeah, that's on section 2.
Yes, is the person who have rights to decide what is right and what is wrong. And if the INEC presiding officer has counted this as votes legally acquired by NNPP, the judicial officer should have obeyed that aspect of INEC.
Even when they observed that those ballot papers were not stamped. Are you saying that?
No, if you read that act.
I want to read it now. Section 65, subsection 2 is saying, if the returning officer is satisfied with a ballot paper which does not bear the official mark, was from a book of ballot paper which was furnished to the presiding officer of the polling unit, in which the vote was cast for use at the election in question, he or she shall, notwithstanding the absence of the official mark, count that ballot paper. And so that means the stamp does not matter.
At all.
If you go by the
It is very clear. It's unambiguous.
It does.
There's no ambiguity.
No, that's what the electoral act
says. No, it does.
No, you cannot decide.
No, don't worry.
My friend, listen.
Don't worry.
It is not for you. I'm coming, sir. It is not for you and I to decide what is right or what is wrong. The INEC Electoral Act decides. They are the presiding officer. They are the umpire. They are the organizers. They are equally the supervisors. They, in their own wisdom, knows that in a situation where there is an election, certain things could be missing. The stamp could be missing. The ink may not be enough. There may not be a biro, or the biro may refuse to write. An electorate. It is for him to accept that this thing is genuine or not. It's not for the judge to decide that, because the judge has not proven anything that this thing has gone through some forensic analysis. For instance, you cannot just sit down in your chamber and deduct 165.
Plus, because the ballots were not stamped.
Because they were not stamped. Meanwhile, there was a presiding officer whose duty is to decide what is right and what is wrong.
Okay, doctor, let me go to section 64.
Sorry,
let me read this section first.
Okay, good.
It may even help you.
Okay.
Section 64 of the Electoral Act 2022 went further to say that the presiding officer shall endorse the word rejected.
Yes.
On the ballot papers rejected under section 52(1) of this act. And for any other reason, and that ballot paper shall not be counted except otherwise allowed by the returning officer, who may overrule the presiding officer. So in this case, there seems to be a confusion here.
There is no confusion.
Okay.
There is no ambiguity at all. I want to go by his first question. When he says that when the number of council vote outnumbered the winning vote, the election should have been declared
invalid.
Declared inconclusive.
Yes.
Then there will be a rerun to it. That will happen when you have invalid vote. What we have in Kano is no vote at all.
No
vote at all.
So where did
listen. When I say no vote at all, in the sense that these guys instill violence, chase INEC officials away, took possession of electoral materials, I started printing it and later stuff it into the material. If you watch the video of what happened in Kano on the day of that governorship election, you will agree with me that there were some specific boys that came out ready to kill and maim and do anything. And because APC is a law-abiding party, they decided not to confront them. Are you with me? Knowing fully well that whatsoever you do without due process or following the Electoral Act will be upturned in the tribunal.
Okay.
So we decided to go to the tribunal. Now, two, wait, I want to get another one again.
Okay.
2, Section 64 that you quoted,
yes,
state very clear that presiding officer or the returning officer. Are you with me?
No, he didn't say the returning officer.
No, he said presiding officer shall endorse.
Yes. Presiding officer shall endorse.
Yes.
Then who else?
Then there's the portion of the returning officer who may overrule.
The returning officer may overrule
the presiding
officer.
Yes.
Did that happen?
Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now, if INEC, presiding officer or a returning officer, is rejecting your result, they won't tell you because of fear of the unknown. They won't tell you. And that is why there is a provision that you will fill a form attached to it. Even when you fill that form attached to it, it does not stop you from declaring the result because it's under duress. So when you go to court, such issues will be now looked onto. So when you go to the tribunal and look into the details of their judgment, they were the same court that granted leave to the party, the APC, to inspect the material. If you had a complaint, you should have also sought leave of court to inspect the material to know where APC has done wrong. So in this case, NNPP as a party is supposed to bury its head in shame.
No, but comrade, from what you have just said now,
yes,
from what you have said now, in the submission of the court, did they read that the presiding officer put a note in between to say that this particular area, these votes were rejected, but because we had to do the counting under duress? Because I understand the law.
Not go to that.
See,
the court may not go to that. If the court is to go by detail of everything that happened during the process, then a day may not be enough to deliver.
But the court may need to go to.
Let me explain to you.
The court may need to take a look at the law.
Let me explain to you now. Let me explain to you. Do you remember that this judgment was delivered via Zoom?
Because they were afraid.
Because they were afraid. And they were ready to do justice. And they were afraid of the same people who chased electoral officers away on election day, that they may be attacked. I don't want to go into details of some certain security situation. Okay. But you will know that Kano is the most populated state in the country. There are 44 local governments. Are you with me? So if there is any crisis in Kano, you may not be able to survive it. And in fact, the whole nation, it will split to the whole country.
Okay, so now, can we allow Dr.
Yes, like I said before, not until politicians become statesmen and don't see election as do or die, but see election as a means of providing service to the citizens of Nigeria, we will keep having this kind of conversation that is having over here. It's on record that a member of APC have been going through trials for murder, where he took people, went to one of our campaign offices in Kano, locked up everybody there, and burnt it down. And he's here telling us that they are law-abiding people. If what he's saying is true, that some people were unruly, is accepted. But was there any stamp or banner that is placed on the body of those
that these are NNPP?
That these are NNPP people? He knows that he's lying here. And he knows fully well that what he's saying is not the truth.
But you know you can't hold him because it is the tribunal's decision.
Yes. The issue we are discussing here are the ions of what happened yesterday.
Exactly.
And what we're discussing here is whether the judicial officer followed
the law.
The law.
Which they did.
They did not.
They did.
No.
They did.
You know that they did not. The
They
law
did.
states, excuse me, sir, when you were talking, I gave you the space. The law states very clearly who is in charge on election day. There are 3 or 4 legs. The presiding officer, the returning officer, and
the
what?
collation officer.
And the collation officer. In each of these stages, nobody wrote any reports to say there was overvoting. Nobody wrote any report.
From INEC.
From INEC, yes.
They didn't write any
They
report.
didn't.
And
Let us,
I had wanted to even take...
yes, let us look at what happened in Taraba
Okay.
and what happened in Adamawa states. The chief returning officer there said, I announced this result under what? Durex. Same happened in Taraba when the returning officer said, I announced this result under duress. Did that happen in Kano? No, it did not happen. You cannot use your position as a ruling party to untwist the wishes of the good people of Kano. You talked about, you see, you have to understand one thing here, that law is not given by emotion. Law should be given by facts and figure, evidential supports that is brought before the people. And the evidential supports through the INEC guideline here have clearly shown that there was miscarriage of justice, that an injustice was done to the people of Kano, who massively and overwhelmingly came out to give their support and vote to NNPP through Abba Yusuf.
Thank you.
And today, APC has gone to procure judgment. Simple put.
You know, at times when we use the word procure, it's a slap on the petition.
I want to request you apologize to me first. Oh. You called me a liar on national TV.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, wait.
He has apologized.
He has
apologized.
Okay, then 2.
He has apologized.
Yes, 2. There's another one.
Okay.
You still made reference that a member of my party lock up your office and brought down the whole people.
Yes. Is it not on trial?
They're going trial.
Is it not on trial?
Remember, the same person you're making reference to has won from the appeal court. Are you with me? So what you say here is a contempt of court.
It's not.
It is.
It is not.
So you need to retract it.
It is a fact.
Listen, you need to retract it.
Hold on,
Gentlemen, I apologize on his behalf.
Thank you very much.
Since he has apologized to you too.
I want to say this. You need to be in Kano. You have your reporters in Kano. Yes. Call them to tell you. The celebration in Kano State yesterday showed very clear that APC truly won the election. It was a stolen mandate. There is a saying that 99 days for the thief, 1 day for the owner.
But there's also an appeal. There's an appeal court and there's a Supreme Court.
Yes.
And
if I were there, they are just going to buy time.
You see,
why don't you allow them?
My brother,
they are just going to buy time in government house. Now, I want to say this before you go on.
Okay.
You guys are just trying to buy time in government house. In order
what about the protest that happened in
Kano? That's what I wanted to ask
you.
You say,
no,
my
listen,
brother,
can you hear me? It's those same people. If you see the celebration in Kano, any fraction that you say as protest is just an organized arm of NNPP.
It's two different political parties.
And now, let me tell you this.
Supporters of each of them.
Let me tell you the truth. If you go to Kano, the average Kano man, the traders, the housewives, the students, the age, they are all celebrating.
Really?
The celebration in Kano State yesterday was so massive.
Were you in Kano yesterday?
No, it was all over the social media. All over.
Okay, now
all over the social media.
Doctor.
You know,
Doctor.
Ironically, I've apologized to him before.
Yes.
I would have maybe I would have said the same thing again. But because I have already said, okay, I'm sorry. This is a national television. Let's face reality. Since yesterday, the people of Kano are mourning. There's no celebration in Kano. Even as we speak. If they are celebrating, will there be a curfew imposed in Kano?
I think they've lifted the coffin.
As we speak, the governor, our indefatigable governor, came on air to appeal to the good people of Kano.
We played it.
Yes, to remain calm. That he knows, God willingly, that he will reclaim his mandate,
All right.
his stolen mandate.
And your party is appealing.
And yes, and we're going to appeal.
It's a waste of time and resources.
You are the
But why
one
don't you
saying so.
let
You're
them
not the
say
judge.
that?
They can't.
Come
But it's
on.
You're
a
not
waste
the
of
judge.
time and
You
resources.
are not the judge. You see,
Because
can I tell you something, sir?
the justice
Let
has
me
been
talk.
served
When you
to
were
the
talking, I
judiciary.
did not hear.
Yes.
You see, the irony of it is this.
Gentlemen, our time is up.
Please, let me
already.
just make this statement. Law is defined as reasons without prejudice. And that is why there are 3 or 4 stages that you go to an election matter.
Okay.
If you go to tribunal, it did not favor you. You go to appeal. If you go to appeal, it didn't favor you, you go to Supreme Court. There are precedents in Nigeria. Oyetola, Adeleke, Wike, Amechi, and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much, Doctor. That's the much we can take on the program tonight.
So,
I want to
say good
appreciate
night?
the essay to the APC National Chairman on Civil Society, Comrade Okpoku Ogenhi. Comrade, you are always our customer, so we need you to come back again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Doctor, you too, we still need you to come back.
Thank you very much.
Probably before the appeal, because once they start hearing at the appeal, we cannot talk on this issue again.
Yes.
So we don't offend the judiciary. Comrades, thank you so much. And the NMPP Vice Chairman South-South, Dr. Stanley Ije, thank you too.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Gentlemen, that's the much we can take. You see, we won't want to